Everyone, it is 3:10, Tuesday, June 8, 2021. This is a Calexico City Council, Calexico Redevelopment Successory Agency, Calexico Financing Authority special meeting. This meeting is being called to order. Roll call.
Mayor Riola Fernandez.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Moreno.
Here.
Councilmember Ureña. Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
Councilmember Romo is via Zoom. Councilmember Romo, can you hear us? Let me see if we can get her. Councilmember Romo?
This meeting is being recorded.
Councilmember Romo? She is on Zoom right now, though.
Right.
She is on Zoom.
We'll take
so we have a quorum.
Right.
To the declaration of emergency, this meeting may be held pursuant to authorization from Governor's executive orders. Some or all of the council members may participate in this meeting by teleconference as authorized by Executive Order N-29-20 issued by Governor of California March 17, 2020. Members of the public are recommended to participate in the meeting via the Calexico City Hall Facebook page or on communityspectrum.org. You may also participate via Zoom, and the information is on the posted agenda. Members of the public will be able to make public comments in the following ways.
Hola,
submit public comments via Zoom by 10 a.m. via email Tuesday, June 8 to ggarcia@calexico.ca.gov or via fax to 760-768-2103. These comments will be read aloud during the meeting. Make public comments via Zoom. Please enter your comments in the Zoom chat and state whether you want to make a public comment or state the agenda item number you wish to speak on. Thank you.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes. Okay. Ready? You got it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Manager, will you lead us with our mission statement?
Together, we pledge to provide effective and efficient services in a respectful manner to improve the quality of life for all and equal opportunity.
No escucho nada.
Now, do we have approval of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Mayor Riola Fernandez.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moreno.
Aye.
Councilmember Ureña.
Now, do we
Councilmember
have
Garcia?
approval of the agenda?
Aye.
Councilmember Romo.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, do we have any public comments?
Carries unanimously.
Do we have any public comments?
No, ma'am. No, we don't
Okay.
have any comments at this
Or
time.
public appearances? No?
No.
Okay, so we're going into discussion items. Presentation by City Manager Figueroa, Administration, Community and Economic Development and Development Services Department, proposed budget for fiscal year July 1st, 2021 to June 30, 2022. Mr. Figueroa?
Absolutely, Madam Mayor, members of the council. If we're going to show the presentation. So normally what we've been doing, and I say normally in the past 3 years, has been where we have department heads and or supervisor have the possibility to present to City Council some of the items pertaining to the departments that we oversee. As it pertains to me, at this moment right now, I oversee, as you can see, the departments that fall under the City Manager's office, which includes Human Resources and the City Clerk's office. Aside from that, I also oversee the Housing and Economic Development Department and the Community Development Services Department. At this point, that is because we're in the process of filling some much needed department head vacancies that we have. With that said, what I have here in front of you today is a little diagram that depicts the departments that I just referenced right now. In Human Resources and Risk Management, we have Ms. Denise Garcia, Ms. Eva Lopez, and Ms. Sally Hernandez. On the City Clerk's office, we have Gabby Garcia, our City Clerk, and Ms. Clara Manjarres. On the Housing and Economic Development Department, right now, as I mentioned, we have a vacancy in the director position, but we have Lorena Minor as a housing specialist. On the Community Development Services Department, we have right now also a vacancy at the director that we are currently looking to fill. We have Chuck Cortez, Mark Vasquez, and Karen Osuna. Aside from this group, I also want to point out that we have an engineering and planning consultant that provides services to the city and provides support to these departments. In the City Manager's office, it's myself, and I have my executive assistant, Ronnie Luna, with me. So let's take a back step here and let's understand what it is that we're trying to accomplish here. Some of the municipal services and regulations that we have been following has been based on 5 drivers: recognizing the advantages in Calexico, assessing the current assets and infrastructure that we have in inventory, partnering with all the champions in our community that are going to be the ones that are going to make us meet all the expectations and objectives that we set forth as a city. This includes partner groups that are either government and non-government agencies. We need to work to have a dynamic strategic action plan with specific goals, timelines, responsibility, assignments, and performance measures. As we know, we're in the process of developing such strategic plan. Staff members at all levels have had the opportunity to chime in. Currently, we're in the process of also engaging the community and the public. And also at the same time, the city council members have had the opportunity to provide their input as well. We're continuing to move forward with that process. We look forward to bringing this within the next quarter, not only for agenda consideration at a public hearing that we're going to have of the actual plan, and this presentation will be provided by Reliance Media Group, who is right now tasked with providing such service. At the end of the day, the expectation is that City Council will adopt a 5-year plan that is going to be a hybrid in which we're going to have the opportunity to revisit this document in a 3-year period. Why? It's a 3 to 5 year plan. Why? Because we're being very specific on the items that we're looking to accomplish. Finally, we're looking to build and foster a business-friendly climate through the City Council's policies, actions, and messaging. I do want to be, as I have been to this day, not only optimistic, but also very truthful in where we stand. We're still not a business-friendly city. We're getting there. We're making strides. We're working by not only amending the policy process, by amending the actual policies, but by having this governing body also take action and moving forward with key elements that need to be updated so we as a city can say that we are business-friendly. We're acknowledging the needs that we have, and we're working to make sure that we made and become a business-friendly city. A lot of this will also happen once we also get the additional manpower that's needed at all levels, at the top and all the way down through the bottom of the pole at every department in the city. What are the economic drivers of Calexico? We do have, as I mentioned right now, the municipal services and regulations target points that I referenced, that if we stay true to them, there is no reason why we cannot exceed and become a better city in all fronts. We have economic development opportunities. We have business and community development that is something that we've been working on to enhance. We have a downtown action plan that this city council has approved. not only has approved, but that we've moved forward with other measures that are going to complement the actual plan in itself. An example of that is I received an email today, an update email today from Lily Falomir, who's our Public Works Admin Manager, letting me know that we actually now have an updated timeline for the SCAG grant, the Sustainable Communities Grant that we received for downtown for the Rockwood Plaza Promenade in the amount of $200,000. We just received an updated timeline from the state of California on that. So progress continues to happen. The New River Improvement Project, which has been a subject that we've been talking about in recent meetings, given the monies that are available and the approval process that we need to go through so we can get the infrastructure components going. And the commercial cannabis activities, which, as the voters in Calexico decided, they approved Measure K, which established a taxable fee schedule for the industry, aside from also pinpointing the elements for which those monies can be used. We also continue to use and update our city prospectus. This is the piece of document that was first put together in 2019, but has been updated in the past 2 years. By using this booklet, by using this economic development tool, we're able to showcase to anybody that wishes to do business in Calexico what it is we have to offer. Aside from that, we also share critical economic factors that are to be considered whenever investment decisions have to be made. So now what I'll do is I'll talk and get into some of the goals and objectives for each of the departments that to this day I oversee. On the Housing and Economic Development Department, one of the things that we need to make sure that we continue in this fiscal year is to make sure that we continue our work with ICTC so we can continue to enhance and make programs on our transportation hub. That is something that's extremely important. Currently, right now, we are finalizing the environmental requirement that is posed for the project, and we're moving forward on the site control piece. Aside from that, I mentioned the Downtown Action Plan. Now that some of the elements of the plan are coming together, it is critical that we continue to work on that. Some of the things that have already happened is some of the work that our PD has done as it pertains to some of the relocation of the transportation services that we have in the city, aside from prepping what's going to be the 2nd Street Promenade between 1st and 2nd, what's going to be, the Rockwood Plaza Promenade. One of the things that we need to continue to engage on once we're able to complete the recruitment for the Economic Development Director is make sure that we continue to solidify our housing program. We have our first-time home buyer and our home rehabilitation programs, which are key. Why? Because those programs generate income that we can later on reinvest and use for other community-driven projects in the city. We need to make sure also that we keep a very close eye on some of the opportunities that are going to stem as a result of the COVID-19 monies that are going to continue to trickle down from the Housing and Community Development Office up in Sacramento. There's going to be a lot of opportunities, a lot of over-the-counter grants that we've taken advantage of in recent times to update our impact fee schedule and our housing element as a city. Remember, by doing these items, we continue to stay competitive and be able to access grants that are going to be able to be used for other community service projects. And like I mentioned, we are well underway as it pertains to the New River Improvement projects, the 3 of them here in Calexico, along with the Parkway project, which are going to continue to hold truth with our community that we're following through. On the human resource and risk management side, some of the things that we need to continue to keep an eye on is make sure that one of the things that, making sure that we identify some of the room for opportunities that we have, is implementing an employee recognition and awards program that we've talked about. It's now a point of making sure that once the Human Resources Office is better staffed, as we're striving to do, we can put this program in place. One of the things that we've also discussed is making sure that we have an employee handbook. An employee handbook that every employee in the city can acknowledge receipt, so everybody understands what are the limitations and the roles that we have, both as administrators and as employees of the city. One of the things also that we need to continue to emphasize is now with some of these newcomers that are coming to the city, making sure that we have the proper orientation for staff members that join our workforce here in the city. We need to continue to also to make sure that even though the funding opportunities as it pertains to staffing levels may not be where they should be right now, where we would want them to be, we need to continue to have a plan to make sure that we fill those vacant positions that we have in every department, that you're going to be listening through these today and tomorrow by other departments. One of the things also that we need to make sure is that we continue to be firm and implement employee performance evaluations. This is a mutual benefit for both us as an employer, but also for the staff members, so they can get feedback in terms of them fulfilling their duties as employees. As it pertains to the city clerk's office, there are a couple of items that are worth bringing up that we need to comply with and stick to. For example, making sure that we update our candidate handbook and web page as it pertains for the 2022 municipal election. We need to make sure also that we continue to be consistent and meet some of the FPPC requirements, and that is by having our Form 700s completed by April 2nd of 2022. One of the other things that our city clerk continues to strive is make sure that now, with an action that was recently taken by City Council with the approval of the use of action minutes, which is coming now for a second reading, and then it's going to be able to be implemented, our city clerk will be able to be more effective and efficient in having minutes up to date. So I'm sure she appreciates this. And one of the biggest things that all municipalities have to do, and we're no different, are the Public Records Act requests that we get, making sure that we continue to comply on a timely basis in order to address any concerns our community members may have. One of the things that I did touch on was that now that we're going to be able to use action minutes, we do have a backlog of minutes from previous years that need to get addressed. And the reason why we put this here is because it's important for us to remember and know that those are there and that we need to take advantage of that. On the Community Development Services Department, remember we have the building unit, we have the planning unit, and we have the code enforcement unit. A backlog of. On the building side, one of the things that we need to continue, and these are just again goals and objectives that stand out, that it is our priority that they be met. It doesn't mean that it's limited only to the items listed here. We need to make sure that we continue to update all required municipal code ordinances in order to make sure that we stay up to speed as it pertains to building and planning, not only with the state of California, but with the federal government. One of the things that's also going to be important for us is making sure that we finalize and update our zoning ordinance. This is critical for future development. This is critical for myself and staff, and even for the city council, to know where development can occur and under what definitions. And as we know, the zoning map is pretty much a living document. With a lot of the actions that this governing body takes, the zoning changes, even also on elements that the Planning Commission considers on a monthly basis. So it's pretty much a friendly reminder, one, that we need to have our housing element updated, like we are working to do, updating our general plan, like we're working to do. We're on schedule to complete these before the term expires. So I'm just happy to share that some of these things are already being worked on with the expectation that they get finalized in 21-22. It's pretty. One of the things also that we need to make sure that we not forget is, once timing and resources allow, training is important. We understand and we acknowledge that most of the times, the first things that get cut, once times become hard as a result of city and government finances, we cut from training. Specifically in this department, it's going to be critical that we stay up to speed. On the code enforcement side, I've been communicating with the city council, I think within the past 48 hours, on some notorious and concerning code enforcement issues that we have been experiencing in Calexico. Currently, right now, we have 2 code enforcement officers. We have a third, which is an environmental services worker that specifically focuses in downtown. I think it's very clear that we need to continue to pay attention to this matter, because we know that this is one of the most clear items that our community looks at. They want to make sure that we not only have a clean city, but if abandoned buildings are out there, that we address them accordingly. We've also been talking about in recent city council meetings ordinances pertaining to abandoned buildings. What are some of the future personnel needs that we have? And obviously I could fill 3 slides with some of these needs, but let's stay focused on some of the areas of need that we can meet immediately. Like I mentioned, a department head, a director for both the Community Development Services Department and the Economic Development Department are going to be critical. I'm happy to share that my HR manager informed that we're getting very close. We're getting very close to actually going through the proper recruitment process. The next phase being actually having some interviews. So that's very promising. I would also recommend an economic development specialist to assist the director, an admin assistant, an executive assistant for both. That could be shared for both departments. I'm happy to share that we did meet one of the items that were requested last year, and that is a building official. But right now we're also in the need of a second building inspector. One thing is having a building official so we can comply with law, which is good, but we also need support there, and we need a building inspector as well. This is a glance of the departments that to this day I oversee. As you can see, we went through a list of goals and objectives to consider, and at this time, considering the presentation that we received last week by the finance director, I will hold on asking for any specific hire at this point until we have a better understanding of resources being available. So with that said, that concludes the presentation that I have as it pertains to the departments that I referenced.
Okay, moving forward. Do we have any questions for Mr. Figueroa?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Gabby, can you bring up the presentation again? Can you bring it up? Or did you turn it off? Oh, if I can have a copy. Who has a copy? So. Oh, okay.
What slide are you on?
I don't recall. Maybe. Go on. Go on. Keep going. That one right there. So, Miguel, so you went over, a lot of things, from departments and that you oversee, but I think, all of this right here merits, and I know we're going through this, process of, hearings and workshops or whatever you want to call them, but I think every item on this visual, right, needs to be addressed and deserves more than a meeting, deserves a strategy. So, I mean, us as coming in, to the council, and mind you, we have sat, in those chairs as part of the public, and we actually heard the discussions and a lot of these things, and now, at least in my case, I find myself here, so I want to go back and revisit every single item, right, to see where we stand. It is good to hear that, everything is moving forward, everything is timeline to be completed, right? But again, so what are we going to do with this, things? What are we going to do with these economic drivers? Where do we stand? What's the purpose? What's the objective? And we all know, I'm just, so what are we accomplishing? Because one thing that I said also, I go back to some of my quotes, some of the things that I said, I don't want to have these things, be completed and sit on a shelf, right? I want this to actually be executed. And I understand, that issues with staffing, and we're going little by little, hiring and maybe looking at options, how we can implement all these things, or at least some of these things. I'm glad to hear that you brought up some of the things that, I was also a witness and a participant of the city perspectives. That's something that, as a commissioner of the economic development and finance, commission, I had a part of that. So, and it was a very good tool, for economic development, attraction, and all of that. But I didn't get to see, and maybe you can, later on, we can get into specifics, how that was used, how did we proceed, where did we send this out, who was responsible for using this tool, right? And I know that at that point, we didn't have a community economic development director, I think, back then you had already transitioned to the assistant city manager position, and you were doing all those duties too. So again, you were spread thin also on that. But I want to go back and I want to revisit that, and not just revisit that, update it, and make sure that someone takes that tool and puts it to use, because it is no good if we put tools or things in place if they're not being used. So that's one thing. So and then as you went on, you talked about impact fees, and we have been working at that, and we have been looking at that. So if we can just expedite and get to the point where we can finally start really looking at that, as a council, bringing something where we can start tackling that, because we know that that's one of the things that, puts it into competition, put us in a competition with other cities, and it's no secret that we hear that, again, our impact fees are high, and that, put us at a disadvantage. So we know that already. We've known that for a long time. So I want to make sure that we bring those as soon as possible, and we can look at them. I know our budget is depending on those fees, but we also have to make sure that, how can we, do with what we have, working a strategy where we can become what we have been saying for a long time also, business friendly. That's a step, to take to become business friendly, right? So the sooner we do that, the sooner we start getting to that business friendly goal that we have set for and repeated for so many times. And I don't know, probably I didn't hear correctly, but there's no employee handbook?
There's no formal employee handbook, no.
Okay.
There are guidelines. There are information sheets that we provide, but there's no, like what the County of Imperial has, which they adopted in recent years.
Private sector, yes, that employee handbook that has all the guidelines, and so we can start looking at that also. That is concerning. And then also
let me just make a statement on that. The rules and regulations that exist via ordinance do get conveyed to employees.
Okay.
We just have not had the resources to actually fund a project like the County of Imperial did in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, where they prepared the very beautiful and glossy employee handbook that everybody received.
Yeah, so and I get it, and I get where you're coming from, and
Sure.
making sure that I'm not implying that we're not,
Sure.
conveying this to the employees. I know that is being done, but having an employee handbook that you can refer back,
Absolutely.
Whether it's you or the employee or the supervisor, it's at the disposal of every single employee, right? And
Correct.
I think it's a tool that will help everybody here. Where you're coming from, and
Sure.
But excuse me, but, okay, I don't want to be misleading the public.
No.
But there is something, I'm sure, when an employee gets hired,
Yes,
you do
and
have
that's
some
why I
type of a
wanted to
handbook,
clarify, yes.
and of course referring to wherever the person is being assigned to, what department. Is that correct?
Yes.
If they're,
We
they say
do
they're hired in
have
the
a
fire department, they're hired in finance department, you do have, per se, or a handbook that you give to them so they need to follow. Yes or no?
I think what the distinction that we need to make here is,
Okay.
The reason I put an employee handbook up there is because it's an actual document that not only stipulates the obligations that the employer has, but also the rights of the employee, on top of also having like a glossary of the departments, its city council, everything is in there. We do have the guidelines, procedures, and documentation
Okay,
that we have as part of the hiring process of any city employee, which they receive as it pertains to compensation, benefits, and everything else that they're entitled to.
And again, I like to make that clear, that we do have something in place, because I don't want somebody later on to come back and saying that we don't provide for our employees. As the same way, like, you know, when you have our health insurance, there's, you know, when you look at the handbook, there's a lot of things that's documented on there on the handbook. So I think it's good for us to know that there is something there.
No, and you know, Madam Mayor, you know, I'm not saying that there's no guidelines, right? But we're talking about a specific handbook,
No,
right?
I understand
So,
what you're saying.
so
But again, what I'm saying is because when the way if somebody else is hearing you, they might think, wait a minute, the city doesn't even have any, you know.
no, not at all. And that's why, you know, City Manager Figueroa make that point also.
Okay.
You know, so that wasn't really what this conversation was leading. So I'm just going back to what I heard, and I think I understood. So for clarification purposes, okay. So and then also you mentioned on doing what was it, an orientation with each employee or something like that. If you can just go to that slide after the handbook, I think.
Continuing to improve our new hire orientation that
Okay.
we have for city employees.
Okay.
Yes.
So all of that, because, you know, I bring that up because, again, it's part of, you know, onboarding your employees, and I think it's part of knowing, you know, your rules and regulations, and I think those are key as you become part of the city. I think, you know, that helps not just in understanding your job, but also being part of something that, again, it's a family. It's someone that is special, you know, someone that, you know, as a public servant, you understand on, you know, what you're, you know, kind of like joining. So that's part of that, the whole employee handbook and orientation. So I just want to make sure that, you know, we do that and we expedite, right, regardless of what we want to call this. So just we do away with any, you know, misinterpretations or misconceptions as to what this is. So.
And one of the things, Councilman Garcia, that's going to back up your statements is the fact that these goals and objectives, among others that I did not include, are going to be part of the prospective budget that this council considers and approves at some point this month. Why? Because those are the drivers, quote unquote, for the fiscal year, and the accomplishments that we want to come back and later on say we met them, right? Or maybe we didn't meet them, but it was because of these reasons, and we can self-assess ourselves as employees, right? That we're guiding ourselves in the right direction.
Correct, and,
Yes.
and that's the whole point of this discussion. It's not about rambling about just any subject. It's just making sure that we are setting, you know, guidelines. We're setting the ground rules, and we can always go back to.
Absolutely.
And that's something that we do one time and just keep on updating.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm glad to hear that, and I'm glad that, you know, that is going to be done. So I'm really looking forward to making sure that, you know, we do that and it's available as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any more questions? No? Thank you. To our next presentation by Finance Director Lavatos on Finance Department proposed budget for fiscal year July 1st, 2021 to June 30, 2022.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, council members. I'm happy to be here and present on the Finance Department. So, the Finance Department, what we are, the services we provide are general accounting, budget administration, financial reporting, revenue management, cash management, and debt management. As you've been seeing in the last few years while you've been here, we provide quarterly reports, we do budget administration. This is done almost daily, general accounting, daily, cash management just as well. We receive all the, and we'll go into detail a little bit further, we're the city's cashiers, which means that we receive all the cash that it's received into the city. The role of the finance department is to safeguard the city assets, assure timely payment to vendors and employees, is that better? Administer and monitor internal controls, prepare accurate and timely municipal service bills, which is the utility bills, prepare statistical and financial analysis and reports. This is not only to City Council, but also to the city departments. Develop and maintain financial records and reports, prepare city basic financial statements, and coordinate the annual audit with the third-party auditors. The finance department starts as the city's central cashier, which again means that we receive all the cash that is received to the city, whether that would be the police department, whether that would be utility bills, building permits, anything that, any money that comes into the city comes to the finance department. It's recorded and it's accounted for in the finance department. During the course of fiscal year 2020-2021, the finance department processed 1,300 purchase orders. This is to all the city departments. We issued 2,216 accounts payable checks, 26 payrolls, 6,000 payroll checks, 5,500 cash receipts, 8,559 water accounts, which means either open, closed, or issued water accounts, and 2,053 business license accounts. Again, this would mean either we open accounts, we closed accounts, or we had to do something with any business license account. As of now, we have 8,200 water accounts, open water accounts, and we have about 1,200 business license accounts. This is the org chart of the finance department. This is as we currently stand. We have a finance director, which is me. We have an executive assistant, a finance manager. We have an accountant, 3 accounting assistant ones, 1 payroll technician, which has been a vacant position for the last 3 years. And we have our customer service department, which holds the revenue officer. We have 2 accounting assistants, which we currently have filled, and a code enforcement officer. This is as the department currently stands. Again, we've had the payroll technician position vacant for the last 3 years. We've been holding this vacancy to provide savings to the city, but we're in desperate need of this position. And we're proposing, as revenues realized, to have a change and reclassify our accounting assistants 1, the one that does accounts receivable, accounts payable, and also requisitions and POs, to promote him to, or reclassify him to an accounting assistant 2, and hopefully hire our payroll technician. This is a full-time job, which has been done by our finance manager. That's a position she held previously to be becoming a finance manager. She was promoted, but she kept the payroll technician duties. This is a full-time job. It takes at least 3 weeks out of a month to do payroll, in between all the things that we have to do during payroll week and all the payments and all the issues that we have to deal with payroll. So this is very important. If revenues realized, we'd really like to have a payroll technician. And this is the staff that the finance department holds. Again, we are almost fully staffed. We just need our payroll technician. We've been doing without, but eventually it does take a toll on the staff because we have been short-staffed for quite a while. This is all that I have for the finance department. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Carla?
Yes?
How much do we pay Starnik for the services they provide? Or the one company that we use for paying our water bills?
You mean the printing company or the company?
Well, everything, printing and the charge. I mean, the collecting of the monies and.
Where we collect the monies.
And you don't have to give me the answer now, but you know, later on, you know,
we do have a printing company, which is where we send our bills and they print them, and that's about $1,500 a month.
Okay.
When we don't have any additional inserts, like this past month, we added at least 2 or 3 pages of inserts. So all of that is in addition to the service they provide. On top of that, we pay Starnik for the service they provide, which is where we account for all the money coming in and all the bills, and that's what holds all of our utility billing.
So how is that divided? So we have a printing company that prints the
water bills.
the
yes.
water bills, and the inserts
And then
handle
we
the
have
inserts
Starnik,
for us.
which is the one, that's like our financial system for
Okay.
utility billing.
Okay.
And then all of that gets exported into our Springbrook, which is our general ledger that
Okay.
holds all of our financial information.
For historical purposes, do you know when that was transitioning into an outsourcing of? I mean, that was outsourced to that company.
That was 2013?
2013.
2013?
Yes.
Okay.
Before that, we had one system that held all the financial information, which was called MOMS. They had utility billing and all of our financial suite. Now we have 2 different systems. We import from Starnik into Springbrook all the financial information.
Okay.
But Starnik is the one that holds all the customer information
Okay. So
and business license as well.
business licenses also.
Yes.
So okay. So when you go to the website, it asks you to pay your water bill, your business license.
Right.
So those are the 2 services they provide for us.
That
that
is
particular
correct.
company.
Mm-hmm.
So how many companies do we have doing that for us? Just 2?
Just 2.
The printing company and the one that collects the
Springbrook
money.
and Starnik, correct.
What was that? Starnik and
Springbrook,
the Springbrook. Okay.
that's our financial suite. That holds accounts payable, purchase orders, general ledger, or some of our budgeting, and what else do we have? And cash management, or cash. Whenever we receive, Starnik only holds utility billing and business license. If
Okay.
it's a payment from, let's say, the building department or any other billing goes through Springbrook, same as if it's from PD, we import it through Springbrook, not Starnik.
So we have, so some of that also provides services to PD
It provides
to
PD,
pay the
library,
fines and.
recreation, everything else. The only utility billing and business license is the only one held by Starnik. Everything else gets recorded through Springbrook.
Okay. So, I would like to see, and again for future, I know you're not prepared right now, but the savings versus probably having someone, in-house. So I don't know if, an analysis maybe on that,
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lata, for your presentation. So in terms of the collections for the services of the ambulances, we outsource a company for that?
We outsource collections, that is
Okay,
correct.
and there's a fee for that?
There is a fee for that, but only on monies collected. So if they don't collect, we don't pay
Right.
anything, and we pay at 9.5%.
Right. And then I believe a while back, I don't know when's the last time, we used to do the collections here locally. I believe at the fire department, there was a person doing it, collecting the fees, right, for the ambulance services. And we're not doing that.
No, for the fire department, we also have a company that does
Right.
the billing, and they collect, I can't think of the name right now. Whitman is the
Right,
one, they do the
Whitman,
billing
okay.
and they collect the monies and then they send them to us.
Okay.
But for now, we do the collections like through, we only send up to collections once a year. So any past due amount after a year, it's sent out to collections. We try to do the collections in-house, as long as they're current, anything over a year. And our collections have been significantly reduced. I know the first year I came on board, we sent over $1 million in collections. The last year that I was here, we sent about 200,000. So we stayed on top of it for as much as we can. Once COVID hit, that kind of was put
Right.
to the side because of the situation that the city was going through, but we do try to stay on top of it and try not to let the accounts go over 90 days. So
Okay.
we work with the customers. If they have any issues, we can always work on a payment plan. We have different options that we work on.
And just to piggyback on Councilman Garcia's point, is that we had at one point doing our own collections, but now we didn't for whatever reason. We're not, but having somebody, training somebody, do it in-house would probably save a lot of money And right, I think, I don't know if he was alluding to that, but I think hiring somebody who's able to do that, yeah, it's a special expertise, I believe, on collections, but I believe we would have saved that money that too as well. All right, that's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
No,
would be
because
something to
my
consider.
question is this, for your fire department, maybe the chief could answer this for me. Okay, I know when they bill, are they billing under certain codes? Like for instance, you know, you pick up a person with congestive heart failure, you pick up a person with CVA or whatever it is. I know that if their specialty is to bill and using the certain codes, you get the reimbursement is higher, isn't it?
Yes.
And do we
That
have
is correct.
someone specialized in that? I mean, the company that you're dealing with, they're specialized in that type of billing, isn't it?
That is correct.
Okay.
And
Okay.
That's what they do.
And that's something that Javier, I think that's something that if you hire someone, they really need to know how to code and do that
that is
specialty.
correct. They really need to know how to code because that's the base of
Yeah, it
us
is.
getting
The
reimbursed on
reimbursement
correctly.
could make a significant
Right,
difference.
just for, thank you
Okay,
for
sorry.
clarification. I understand that, I'm familiar with the coding, especially a couple years before I retired, I worked for the Department of Justice, Medical and Elder Abuse, and at that time, there was a lot of training and a lot of money put into as far as coding, because coding was the most efficient way to do it as opposed to doing it guessing it, and there was return on investment was more because everything was going into coding. So I'm familiar with that. There is somebody, I think a while back, there was willing to help out the fire department. That person is qualified to train people to be coders, and specifically for the same reason, because you got to know what you're coding and you get more money in return. And so, but there was somebody out there that wanted to train the fire department personnel so they can do it, so we can do it ourselves instead of doing our sourcing, and therefore we save money also as well. But yes, it's important that the coding aspect is involved in that. Thank you.
That is correct. And there was a change about 2 years ago on the coding methodology, so these people stay up to date.
Okay, any more questions? No? Okay.
Well,
Thank you, and thank you so much. I know that your job is pretty difficult. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to a presentation by Police Chief Gerardo on the Calexico Police Department proposed budget for fiscal year July 1st, 2021 to June 30, 2022.
Well, good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, and also like to extend my salutations to the staff that's here and the citizens of Calexico watching this online. Just like everybody else, not like everybody else, I'm sorry, I did not do a power slide presentation. I looked at my budget and I saw that my numbers that we have coming is pretty much status quo from the previous budget. As your police chief and the department head of the Calexico Police Department, I know that the city's financial situation was improving until the COVID-19 pandemic's adverse economic impact on us. Once our city's financial situation starts improving, I have set the priorities to improve the service to our community and give relief to our staff that's shortage of staff. Right now, there's 22 sworn officers, including myself and Lieutenant Serrano. I have 3 vacancies for police officers that have not been filled. It's budgeted, but we are having a hard time filling those positions. I have 2 animal control officers. I have 2 full-time traffic controllers, and one of them is a supervisor, and 2 part-time traffic controllers. I have 6 dispatchers, 1 dispatch supervisor, and 1 evidence clerk. That's everybody in the department except for the 100 employees that I have. Once our situation hopefully improves, the city finances start improving, I have set, and like I said again, improve the priorities for the services of community. Okay? And this is what I am going to ask for. And this is hopefully once we get through our first and second quarter. I need a total of 4 public safety dispatchers. As you know, our dispatchers are overworked, and we need to have more of them. We dispatch for police, fire, EMS, traffic control, animal control. They answer all 911 calls. They do all 911 transfers, and all the regular business lines that come into our city. And then when we do have an influx of police, law enforcement agencies helping us, like Narcotics Task Force, District Attorney's Office investigators, DOJ, the HSI, they all come in, and sometimes they use our radios because they have ways to come into our radios and ask for help. We do work Stone Garden, and we do have a dispatcher come in on overtime. Since we're short-staffed, sometimes we bring in somebody that's on their days off, which causes dispatch burnout, just like officer burnout. So that will be my #1 priority. Once we get a little bit healthy, is to hire dispatchers. The next #2 priority that I have is right now we have 3, like I said, we have 3 vacancies, but I would like to get up to 6 officers. 4 for patrol, 2 as school resource officers. Having 2 school resource officers in the school is very helpful and beneficial for the community. You have them out there patrolling, which makes it safer if somebody sees a police car in front. The prevention of anybody trying to do any school violence lessens because you have a police car parked in front. Not only that, but the SROs that we've had have been so good that they interact with the students, and they develop this relationship that if they're ever in trouble, they go up to our school resource officer. Our officer at the school is actually like not only a police officer, but he's a counselor, he's a mentor, and he's a friend at times to some of these students and children of Calexico. Like I said, the school district in the past we had MOUs, and they paid for the salary of the police officers assigned to the school. Prior to COVID, prior to everything going on, and just the fact that our hiring and the lack of qualified people applying for police officers, the school was in need, and they were in agreement to pay for the secondary SRO. One of the things by having more officers too, it would also start a sustainable and effective community outreach program, like a neighborhood watch or any other police programs with the community. We like that. And one thing I don't want to do, and I think it's a disservice, is to start a neighborhood watch program if we're not going to go full on. If we're not going to have somebody assigned and to oversee a community watch or neighborhood watch program. If we're only going to be there once every other month and not really pay attention to our citizens, it's not good. The officers can do this work in patrol better than trying to do things with mediocrity and not with 100% commitment. Right now, one of the things is by having an additional 6 officers for the 3, it would give me 9 officers. I can put people back in investigations. I can send somebody to a task force, which in turn, in the long run, it pays for itself because they start seizing, illegal monies and stuff like this, and properties which they sell, and we get a percentage of. It depends on the involvement. We get a percentage of whatever they seize. So, like I said, right now, patrol takes my priority over any other assignment, and some people don't understand that. But boots on the ground is what keeps our city safe. Having investigators right now would be a luxury. Sending somebody to a task force right now would be a luxury, and then we wouldn't have enough people for patrol. The #3 priority, which is very important, and Mr. Figueroa, he said it, is training. With all these upcoming mandates and the ever-changing policies and tactics in policing, and we're looking at, it's going to be a really, really big reform and change coming as the years come up. One of the things that we need to do is train officers. And we're going to have a training budget that's not going to get cut when times get tough. And like I said, this is all, I understand the financial situation. I'm talking about if for some reason, we come into some money. That's my third priority. We all know that a well-trained employee is less of a liability to the city that we serve. My number 4 priority is our buildings, just like every other building in the city. I need to renovate and fix our police department. That would be my number 1 priority, is the one the public comes to every day, the one that you got more people working out of. It's there, where our dispatchers are there 24/7. My second priority would be the animal control facility. And my third one will be our traffic control facilities. Like I said, they all need some TLC. Some of them need more than TLC. My 5th and final one, because I can go on, and like I said, ask for things that I know they're not going to be attainable because there's needs or necessity. And this, I think, is already on our capital improvement. But the animal control, they need a vehicle, a real vehicle, and I think Ms. Lobatos already hopefully put it on. Like I said, there's more stuff that I could ask for, but unfortunately, I saw my budget, I see what I asked for, and I see what finance is, that what they want to give us, the projection where we're at with revenues, and I'll be honest with you here, is I'm not going to be difficult. And I know that we are in not very good financial situation, but what I'm asking for is just in case we do get some money, I think the priorities are going to have to be towards who are the people out there more, what's going to cost you more money in the lawsuit, and we need to keep our people safe. One of the attainable goals that we have is and I'm going to bring it up to council, and I might as well give you a heads up, it's a new record management system and computer automated dispatch that I'm going to bring out an MOU contract that we're going to want to enter with the sheriff's office. That's going to cost us $7,000 less a year. So see, I'm already saving $7,000 there. So, I mean, that's, in the long run, it pays off. And it's user-friendly better, and it's great for our new RIPA reporting. So, this RIPA, it's the racial, Mr. Would you help me out? It's a racial profiling. So what we got to do is every time, we have till January of next year to start off reporting all our vehicle stops and contacts, pedestrian contacts, whatever contacts we have, some other than calls for service, even calls for service. And we have reached Lieutenant Serrano, and he's my focus. He's my main person on this, and he's focusing on this reporting. We want to start July. We want to start it in July so we can get ahead. So these are all state mandates. Those are my short-term attainable goals, which will not cost the city money, and actually is going to save the city money. Another one is I'm bringing the cars, the bid for the cars. We just got them, and that's coming up at a staff report. With the money the bids that came in, we're able to purchase 4 vehicles. I spoke with Ms. Lovatos, and she says she recommended that we purchase them instead of leasing them because we're going to save money. If we lease them at the end, we're going to spend more money. So we do have the money set aside for that. Good news with that is that HIDA, which is part of the federal government, is going to buy us 2 new automatic license plate readers for those vehicles that we get. So everybody thinks on these ALPRs that it's bad because we're invading your privacy. Actually, the tool that we use it for better is patrol cars cruise the area. We have a crime scene. God forbid we have a murder, and we can go back and see what cars were there that belong there or not. If there's a amber alert, silver alert, whatever it is, those ALPRs will pick them up. So that's what I like about them, is that we can find people that we're looking for, or vehicles that are stolen by having that. So let's not look at the negative part about people saying that invasion of privacy and their amendment rights. I look at it as a tool for us to be able to do our job more efficiently. One of the long-term goals too that we're trying to do is working with IVC is starting a regional training where every department is going to have officers out there, and we'll be able to do all our regional training in the valley, most of it in the valley, without having to send people out and paying hotels and paying per diem. You know, we'll have to pay their hourly rate, which some of it gets reimbursed, not all of it, but somebody does. And another one is also I'm trying to get laptops for every officer. And when I find out how I'm going to do it, I'll bring it up to you guys. There will be a sign. We found out that when we assign equipment, it lasts longer than when the equipment is just sitting there. Long-term goals, again, that we need to keep on continuing. The short-term, long-term goals is training and hiring. Trying to recruit people to come here and stay here and at least give us a good 3 to 5 years. If they want to stay here to make it a career, it's great. I am not going to complain. The council has been very good with us, and also the city. The finance director has helped me, and the city manager with the cameras and the tasers, with our new radio system that we're getting. It's just what really is hurting us right now is people, and we're doing okay, but we can do a lot better. And like I said, if we get those bodies, I know this is just in case we do good after the first, second quarter, and we can start hiring more people. I want to start with the dispatchers and then move on to officers. And that's all I have for you today.
Any questions?
I have something to ask. So the police, obviously we know you guys are the gatekeepers, right? And then this coming down with the mandate from the governors, or right?
It's law. Yeah,
okay.
It's law. It's federal law, actually.
So do you have I'm talking in terms of IT technology, right? Do you have the virtual space to accommodate all those calls?
So the good thing about RIPA is, in the vendor that we're working with, this vendor, correct me if wrong, Lieutenant Serrano, it's $100 per officer per year to have this software that's going to be able to keep track of all our RIPA stops. And at the end, everything, so it goes from the officer to a sergeant or the officer in charge. He approves it, and then it goes up to the cloud, and it gets sent to the Department of Justice. So you can't beat that. I mean, this is something that it would cost me more money if I were to buy a system and try to maintain a system through IT. Then right now it probably costs me, for the patrol guys or for everybody, because we all have to have it. So right now it would cost me $2,200 a month. I mean, a year, $2,200 a year. If we get 30 officers, it'll be $3,000 a year. Right. Now imagine having to have somebody in IT, or pay somebody in IT to do this, or having to buy licenses. I think the license itself would probably cost us about $5,000 to $6,000. And then the upkeep of this, God knows, every time something breaks down, it would. So the hardware would cost us money, the software costs more money. And so this is user friendly. I mean, we went through a really good demo. They're going to send us some are they going to send us a pad, or are they going to give us the?
They're going to give us a demo platform so we can use for about all officers.
Yeah.
So
So everybody's going to be able to do it for a demo, and then they're hoping that come, a little bit after July, we can go live with that. Like I said, there's money in my budget for that, to pay those $2,000 right now. If not, I do have, sources that I can, like NTF, that I can ask for them to pay the first year, because that's some of the money they have there. They can help us along with that. But like I said, I already reached out to certain people just in case I can't fund it. I have a backup on they can fund it for us.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have anything, Madam Mayor.
Any questions?
Again, again, how often do you get any unfunded mandates as far as law?
How many?
How often do you? I mean, like if you get something from DOJ and say, now you're going to do this, but there's no money. Kind of like the ADA type of thing. That we all have to.
So, Mr. Camilo, to be honest with you, in my 30 years, I think this has been the first time in a long time that they have actually made us buy stuff with. And so RIPA is not really that expensive, because I said it's only going to cost us $2,200 right now. The one that really cost us was our radios when they went to encryption, and that's one of the things that we didn't see it coming. We were preparing to buy radios, and Ms. Lobatos and I have been working on setting money aside for our radios, so when it finally came in, we could pay them. But it just went from October, and all of a sudden it says you have, till the beginning of the year to give us a plan. And then they told us you're going to have, you have time to do it, but they're kind of pushing you to give them a timeline, and they're holding you accountable on the timeline. So if we know we can't meet the timeline, I have to go to DOJ and I have to send them a letter giving an explanation why, and when the next timeline will be, or the goal. So we already did our kickoff this past week on radios. So we're right where we should be when that comes in. It's just being on top of it. It's just being on it. And then, like I said, the bad thing about it, in the past, the city of Calexico, we've been lucky that we've had people on task forces. Yeah. And the city hasn't paid for police cars out of the general fund since 2007. And this is actually the first time, hopefully next week you guys will approve it, that we actually buy cars. And with that money, we'll be able to fight for fully equipped vehicles. And that's bad, because in 2011 we bought. How many cars did we buy? Somewhere about 20.
About 10 more police cars and two.
So it was 12 cars total in 2011, and then in 2015. We got 6 cars that were all through Stone Garden monies, and that's a forfeiture money. But we haven't bought anything since. And that's every department. But we used to have that luxury that we had, $500,000, $1 million in asset forfeiture, and then all dried out. So hopefully in our future we can hire somebody and start. But I got to take care of Calexico first before I send somebody out to a task force. I got to take care of our citizens first.
Was a drone on a grant?
So the drone. so drones. Narcotics task force. We just sold, and I'll say we because I'm on the board. We just sold our helicopter, and with that money, they're going to buy a bunch of drones, and they're going to train their people. So we don't have to worry about that. Sheriff's Office has, really nice drones. Border Patrol has drones, and then El Centro's going to get some, and Narcotics Task Force is going to get some. So in reality, we don't need to buy a drone, because we have all these allied agencies that are all licensed to do it, and so they need to come out and practice too. So every time that we need somebody to come in when we're looking for somebody, that drone goes up. They're all licensed through the FAA and trained, and they know what they're doing and what they can and can't do. So it's good to have a good partnership with other agencies, because they're willing to come out here and help you. Like you guys were there this morning when the Border Patrol, and
I was going to mention that.
It's really nice that we can use our capabilities of cameras and drones and stuff like that, because they have all these resources. And just get ready, guys, because Border Patrol is going to invite all of us to go horseback riding once the weather cools off again. So start practicing, Mr. Figueroa. If you're not, they're going to ask you to come along with us on the horse, Fire Chief. So that's all I have for you. Like I said, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. And I'm here to.
Anybody else has questions?
Yeah, just a quick question about the cars. So it's good that we're purchasing instead of leasing.
Yes.
You haven't actually bought the vehicle yet, right?
No.
Okay. So
No.
just for your consideration, with the climate action plan, it told us that we should consider moving our municipal fleet to more hybrids and electric and all that stuff. In your consideration, it might be good to consider when you're buying this car that it be that Ford Explorer hybrid model. That might be, I don't know, at the expense, gasoline versus maintenance is usually better in a hybrid vehicle, but they're more expensive. Just as a consideration.
So we did go out to bid, and we didn't consider the hybrid this time around. Maybe the next fleet, because every agency that has a hybrid has been having to put a lot of money into it. The Ford hybrids they're being recalled.
Oh.
So, but the next go around, I know we're going to do it. It's just we're trying to. It's like when we bought our Chargers. The front end suspensions is the worst that could happen during that year, and we spent more money trying to get these things up to par. So you learn from other people's mistakes, and I know that CHP had to send back all their hybrid cars. So they can afford it. They have the luxury. They have a huge fleet. If I have 4 cars and I have to send them all to the shop at once, I can't afford it. It's going to be too expensive for us. So maybe this time around we won't do it, but next time we'll look. As a matter of fact, I think Chris from planning, he told me that we should buy electric vehicles. And it's the same thing again. Electric vehicles are good, but at the same time they're not for down here. We don't have enough charging stations, and if we run out of the cell capacity on that, so it's not good. I mean, we kind of have to tow the vehicle back to the station, and it's not conducive for us at this time.
We do have an expert.
So, are you done? Or
I'm done.
okay, Chief, I will say we met with the Border Patrol this morning, and I will say they are very, very fond of our chief, and they express all the help that our department has given the Border Patrol. They also gave our chief a cup and a knife, and they gave Javier and I a coin. And again, I want to thank you, Chief, because it was a pleasure for you to invite us there, because we saw the unity that you have with them and how they express themselves on all the assistance you have provided, or our city has provided them.
Mayor, and as you saw, I didn't know what they had planned. They just told me to show up at 8:30, that they wanted to talk to us, and I went over there. So okay, I know that the patrol agent in charge is looking at, for the Calexico area, he got promoted, so he's looking at going up to Washington State, and so I thought maybe it was a little breakfast for him or something like that. And so when we show up, and then they start talking, and they present us all the information they had, and then they called me up there. I was surprised. That was. I mean, it's a relationship that I have actually, and we have with every other department and entity here in Imperial. It's a very unique. Other people from other areas in the state will tell you that Imperial County is very unique. That the way we get along here and we help each other out. It's really good, but it's like, the fire departments too. I seen the unity they have here in the valley, and I think it's just the fact that we're so isolated from everybody else that we depend on each other a lot. So we become just more than police. We're more like a brotherhood, like brothers and sisters and friends. So, thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay. Now, presentation by Fire Chief Favila on the Fire Department proposed budget for fiscal year July 1st, 2021 to June 30, 2022. You have the floor.
All right, good afternoon, Honorable City Council, to our staff that's present here, and always most important to our citizens of Calexico that are viewing this special budget presentation on our social media platforms. My name is Diego. I'm the Fire Chief for the City of Calexico. And before I start on my presentation, I just want to give a quick update on our ambulance situation. Today, we were fortunate enough to put the new ambulance that was purchased, that you guys allowed us to purchase back in April, is in service today. It took its first call around 1:30.
Wow.
And the first call was at the U.S. Port of Entry. So we're pleased to have that back in service. So when you're planning your budget or reviewing your budget, you always got to look at the past and the future. And the past for the Calexico Fire Department has not been the best when it comes to budgeting. Sometimes it feels, or did feel, like you were almost being set up to fail. And what I mean by that is, if you had a team or a department that you wanted to see fail, you'd have to do a couple of things. And some of those things that you would give them or not give them is equipment. You'd give them the lack of the equipment that they needed to do their job or to perform their job safely. You'd probably hinder their staffing. You'd probably give them low staffing. And the last thing obviously would be the financial impact for this department. And unfortunately, our situation that we have with the fire department, that's where we find ourselves today. The predicament that we're in today is because a lot of these past decisions or lack of decisions made to the fire department has put us in the situation we're at today. So today's presentation on the fire department is going to highlight some of these things here. So this is your current fire department that you have right now in that presentation. And to start off on the numbers for the fire department, I want you guys to know that your fire department, and I don't think any city council meeting has not gone on because I've been taking the tallies. If you go back, every city council meeting, we've always had a slight interruption from the background of the sounds of the ambulance. And just a little while ago, we had the same thing. So we're constantly running. It's a sound that is identifies Calexico, and you ask them, hey, what about Calexico? Well, we know about the water tower. We know about the new river, the port of entry, and the fire department's always, the siren's always going off. Look, there's another one right there. So what does that mean? That means call volume is increasing. The call volume, I got a little 5-year spread here of where we've been the last 5 years. Last year we had 5273 calls, and right now we're trending to be higher than that. So this is a 5-year view, and as you can see, the increases in volume in every single year from there. It's about an average of 470 calls more than last year, where we're at right now. If you think about that, that's equivalent to an extra month of work for your fire personnel. That's almost a 13-month year for your personnel. That's about 14 to 18 calls a day for them. So your fire department works off of a 3-battalion model, which gives you 3 shifts, and that gives us a total of 5 captains. At the moment now we have 5 captains, and we have 1 acting captain. We've had this captain acting in that position for almost 3 years. 3 years as an acting captain. We have 4 engineers. We have 2 voids in that position, and this has been fluctuating and being shared between all the other firefighters who are acting up, who are qualified and certified to work in that position. So we have 5 captains, 1 captain void, which, like I said, has been filled for 3 years by the same person, 4 engineers with a lack of 2. We have a total of 15 firefighters. When you do the math, it's 24 total personnel for your fire department. If you compare that, that's to we're working in, not even in the times of 2015. In 2015, you had 30. Remember our last city council meeting, we saw the budget presentation, and the finance department noted that the staff members or the staff personnel that we've had in the past years. In 2015, we were at 30. And if you go back to the call volume, we were in the 3,000s. Now we're in the 5,000s. So obviously we're below there, and it's something that does need to get fit. But this goes back to what I was telling you about how do you make a department fail, right? Or at least make it feel like it fails, is you increase the workload, but you don't increase the personnel. So obviously, the past couple of years, we've been at a upscale, and it feels good. It feels good, and I say that because it seems like we've turned a corner. And it's obvious with our fire station that we're doing right now, building. We're more than 50% complete at that station. Obviously, it's the new used ambulance that you allowed us to purchase, and some of the one-time purchases that we did with the Measure K monies. So it does feel good, and it is appreciated. Our short-term goal for right now is, like I said already, is just try to revert back to our staffing of 10 per shift. That would give us 30. That would give us the exact staffing that we had in 2015. Obviously, if you were to look at our service area plan that was put out in 2017 by the city to LAFCO, you would see that the numbers, and obviously these are ideal numbers for everything, but in 2020, we should have 70 firefighters. Obviously, we know that we're not close to that, and we gotta be realistic. I understand that. But we should at least be moving up instead of moving back, okay? So by moving ahead, that gives us a little closer to getting to that 1.5 personnel per every 1,000 person within our community. So when you have these shortcomings, and I want to say thank you to my man, first of all, because I don't think you guys understand, or a lot of people don't understand the sacrifice they have done to help us maintain the budget. If you go back to March 2020, since then they have not had a vacation since March of 2020. I think other departments were fortunate enough to allow people to take vacation. We have still not. To this day, vacations have not been approved. And the reason why is because it's a staffing issue. It's unfortunate, but it is a sacrifice that we are willing to do at the moment to help the team, and it's important that we do that. When you increase the workload for your staff members out there, you also increase a lot of risks. People are tired, people are overworked, and some of those things lead to tragic events, or at the end of the day, accidents, something that, knock on wood, we have not had yet. But how long can we push it? Like, I want to say that Mr. Moreno, on our last meeting, he said that we're one lawsuit away from a big financial lawsuit. And it's true. When you have these kind of staffings, that is something you really have to consider. So we have two departments. We have three big divisions in the fire department. Obviously, the first one is I thought this picture here was kind of, it was pretty unique. It's an old picture. This is in the 60s, and you look at their total staffing. This is one shift in the, I want to say it was the 60s. I think they have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 personnel. That's in the 60s. We're in 2021. We're not close to that. So this is what I was talking about, the service area plan of where we're supposed to be for the population. And when it says one vehicle right there, that's supposed to be another emergency response vehicle that you add to the year. So so basically, it's every 5 years you should be adding another vehicle to your fleet to serve as an emergency vehicle. And obviously, we're not close to that yet, and we understand that. Looking at this part right here, we should be at, like I said earlier, we should be at 70 firefighters with 6 vehicles. We are short of that. We have 4 vehicles in service. And the divisions I was talking about is operations. Your fire department, they do all risk emergencies. Obviously, with today's climate, whether it be with the health issues with the COVID, if we have your border issues, our workload increases. The fires increase with our homeless population. It increases with our buildings that are being condemned or closed. The auto collisions have also gone up. So these are the stuff that your people are responding to every single day. The other division we have is the prevention department. This is controlled by one person. This is one person only, and it's his responsibility to do the pre-fire inspections for the whole city, fire inspections for the schools, abatement complaints, and building and project plan review. This is for one person to do that. And this is a big component of our fire department budget, is through fire prevention. So imagine if we're doing that with one person, how much more effective we would be with 2 people, right? So that's something to think about right there. So the ask for our operations obviously is personnel. Right now we are, like I stated, we're short on personnel, just like every other department here. But at the time, right now, in this climate that we're, it's imperative that the I'm not going to say the fire department, just public safety in general, your police department, your fire department, it needs to be, it needs to improve. It does need to improve. We need to be able to provide the safety that this city deserves, the citizens deserve, and it's your job to make sure that happens. Right? Our job is to make sure that we do it, and your job is to make sure that you give us the equipment and personnel in order to do that. And like I said, we are getting there. We are getting there, and it's very obvious. I want to show that I'm appreciative to what you guys have done for us. So the ask for our operations right now is obviously let's give this a real thought about promoting to a captain's position. Because what they do is they're in charge, they have the responsibility of all the personnel at each station. Whatever station it is, at this time he is certified to work in that position. So he makes sure that he controls and oversees all the emergencies throughout the day, ensures that all the reports are completed, and there's an amount of stuff that he does. But let's try to get a promotion of this fire captain. The other one is the promotion of fire engineer. 2 voids. If there was a good thing about this, it's that our crew has been given the ability to work at that capacity. They're able to gain the experience, the knowledge, and for that, we should be appreciative for. But at the same time, there's inconsistency right there. We need consistency because the engineer is the one who drives the vehicle, which is very important. You got to make sure that your personnel arrive to the scene, and then once they get there, that everything is in working order. So we would have to make sure that we do the promotion for the two voids that we have at engineering. What does it do if it helps us? Obviously, it's going to help us with extinguishing the fires, all the general stuff that we normally do. It's going to take a lot of that workload off. But at the end of the day, it does 2 things that I hold dear to me. It's obviously it's safety for one another. For them, it gives them an extra person to help them. But it also provides a better service for our public, which they deserve. As far as the prevention officer or bureau, we would ask that we look at maybe giving them 1 more inspector. And what does that do? Obviously, we would be more effective in our requirements for public safety, our inspections, and obviously it controls our liability. On these next slides, I'm not proud of them, but I'm going to have to tell you about them because this is the reality of it. There's a couple asks for the fire department, and it's for equipment. At Station 1, you have Engine 11 that was purchased in 2012. You have Truck 91 that is 1996, and that's still in service today. I applaud our men for keeping that engine in working order. All the Band-Aids and screws and stuff that we're able to do to that to make sure that stays certified, they should be applauded. 1996. Brush 11 is from 2013. 2670 is 2012, and 2012 for 2672. And these were the ones that were donated generously by the Heffernan Memorial District. I appreciate that. At your Station 2, you have Engine 22, which is the top or the twin of the Engine 11, was also purchased in 2012. And you have 3821, which is from 2007, and that's the one we're currently using right now as one of them gets the air conditioner fixed. Obviously, you improve these units, you decrease the maintenance and the repairs on these units, right? Because it is costly to repair stuff on an engine, an ambulance, it gets pricey. So these dates is what I alluded to about being embarrassed about. The units themselves, like I said, I applaud the gentlemen who use these, who take care of them, who service them, and at the end of the day, respond to these calls in these vehicles. So there is a need to improve our fleet. So what I'm asking for now is, because we're doing a priority, and this is a subject that we have talked about in the past at several meetings. This is no secret that the ambulances that we've had are depleted. They're done. So the ask on this one is the lease or purchase of 2 new ambulances. I would recommend that we lease them. That way every 5 years we can get rid of them, get some new ones, and that way we don't find ourselves in the situation where we're stealing from one to fix the other. or investing too much money on repairs and maintenance. Like I said, the current ambulances that we have were purchased in 2012. I'm sorry, let's look how far that is. Was it 20,012? Or I don't even know what that number is that I put up there as a typo. I'm sorry, it's supposed to be 2012. That's when we were donated. The city has not purchased an ambulance since 2008. That was the last time. We have high mileage on them, like I've stated, the reliability, the maintenance costs. It's not, once you do the other, it'll alleviate a lot of that money that we use in the shop to pay for. Sure here. So this is a little slide here. What I put here is our one new ambulance. This would be at least to buy. Said the current dates, right? If you look at it, we almost feel like we're that cousin, the poor cousin who gets everything donated to them. And again, we're grateful. 2012, we were donated the 2 ambulances. We have a pickup that we use at Station 2, which is graciously donated by the Calexico Police Department in 2001. We have 3808, which is our fire prevention vehicle. That was donated to us by the Public Works in 2006. The vehicle that I am currently using was graciously donated by the Calexico Police Department in 2018. And the last time the city fire department has purchased an actual vehicle was in 2004, which is the vehicle that you see running down the streets in their absence of the ambulance. This is the red one, the dually. So to say there's a little bit of attention at the fleet level is to say that that's something that does need to be evaluated. Our fire station, I'm very proud to say that our fire station that we're receiving here on 5th Street is about 50% complete. I didn't want to throw a picture up there because everybody can see it as they pass by, and I'd like to show a finished model for it. Station 2 is at 900 Grand Street. This services the west side of our community. We've done presentations on this in the past. We've also had tours, and you've seen the conditions that we have at Station 2. So I don't need to beat that one up. So obviously we're looking out for some station upgrades as soon as that money is available, and we understand, believe me, if anything, we do understand. We're a team player in this shows because we have not been griping with a lot of the equipment that we've had in the past, but that some of this does need to be addressed. So the ask is to, for Station 2 is obviously to help the roofing, some of the walls, a lot of the upgrades that we've talked about in the past. A topic that we've heard just tonight in the 3 presentations before mine is training. Your firemen, paramedics have to do 240 hours a year for the fire side, and you got to do 48 hours for the paramedic side and 24 for the EMT side, right? And we're required that. That's a state requirement, and this is something that we do all the time, right? But the training has always been paid by our personnel. Our staff is the one paying for their own training. If you go back to the past budgets, you're going to look and you're going to notice that the fire department has never received a training budget. Last year we received our first training budget, and for that I was appreciative. But because of our situation where we weren't able to use the monies. Obviously we had COVID going on, which we understand, and we were in a financial situation. So it would be nice if there's requirements that our personnel have is at least met to some degree. I am pleased to say that we have 4 of our firefighters completed the paramedic program. It's about a $6,000, $7,000 program that was paid by themselves, and for that they should be proud that they're able to accomplish that, and the fact that they did it within a COVID situation, working all the hours, no vacation, and still able to do this. One-time purchases that we still need, and some of them that we have accomplished, and that's the ones with the Measure K that you guys approved. Again, thank you. Was the brush gear. We should be taking receipt of those by next week. We've ordered them. They were already ordered. Those are been delivered. The handheld radios. Obviously, our whole system needs to be renewed, but we settled for 10 because we know that the money's is not. We know that the money's not there. Bulletproof vests. This was something that we had asked about for our personnel. the response when we assist the police departments on their calls, if we're called to stage. It's imperative that our people have the protection that they need. It may seem like, wow, you don't have that? But yes, it is true, we don't have that. You should at least have some for your ambulance personnel. We've talked about the helmets for fire suppression that have been outdated and needed. This is something that we would like to make sure that it gets looked at if the money's obviously is there for us to do it. And obviously all this stuff is regulated by OSHA. It's something that we've been very fortunate about. There's a lot of other purchases up there that we would like to do, but this would have to be our priority. Some of them goes back to the living conditions at our Station 2. The beds are in need of repair or replacement at this. There's a lot of equipment that is in need. If you look back, most of our stuff is, like I said, we're that cousin that always gets everything donated. The Heffernan Memorial was gracious and donated our PPE. They donated our SCBAs. They donated our heart monitors. So I think it would be fair to say that we need some stuff at the fire department. I also want to be fair, and like I said, I do appreciate this incline that we're doing, and it looks good. It looks good, it makes us feel good. And those are the little things that makes your personnel feel good. Every day they come to work, they see the fire station getting up, it just makes them like, hey, we're chugging along, we're doing good. We got the radios that were purchased back for the Measure K. That's a booster. When the brush gets here, they're gonna be happy. That's a booster. We run a department with high morale, even considering all the deficits that we have. And this is not just my department. This goes to every department in the city is affected. I don't want to take anything away from them because everybody is affected. Not everybody has the personnel and the staff that they wish they had. We need to prioritize. We need to figure out what's a need and what's a want. So initially this was supposed to be a wish list, and unfortunately I can't make a wish on any of this stuff because this is needs. If I were to wish, I would wish that we had a fire station on the north side of town so that we can meet our response time faster. I wish that there was no fires. I wish nobody got sick. I wish that nobody had to call the fire department. That's the wish. These are my needs. These are our wants, and I think that's it. I want to apologize if I gave a gloom presentation, but it's stuff that needs to be said because we need to start moving forward. And like I said, we have, and I appreciate that, and thank you. I'll take questions.
Any questions?
Just sort of an observation. So you had 4,273 calls in 2020, according to this, right?
Sir.
And then, so that's 439.41 per month. That's 14.64 per day. So my question is, if we've had this trend for years, why we're not capitalizing on investing enough ambulances, so we have to outsource the other services. And by the way, because I think your ambulance was broken down one time and we had to outsource. Do we get money from that? Or do we get
So to answer the first part, why wasn't it, why did we do something about this earlier? I'm not sure why. It's a past management, past city council. We're moving forward and it looks like we're in the right direction. I appreciate that. As far as are we losing money? Yes, we are, because we're not able to bill for it. So the reality is this: you get somebody who calls 911 and let's just say they are hypoglycemic, which means their sugar is down, right? Your ambulance shows up, or your squad, the 2008 shows up to the house. We get off, we administer the oxygen, we administer the IV, we administer the dextrose, we use all our equipment. Our partner AMR, which we're very appreciative because, man, they have helped us out in this time of need. And for that, I'm going to be thankful to them forever. They show up and they pick up the patient and they transport. They get to collect or bill for everything that we were able to use. Why? Because they don't need to redo it. It's not like we're going to take one IV off and put another IV, or take that medicine out and put another one. So yes, we are losing money when we don't have the ambulance in. Now that we have the 2 ambulances, when we get the 2 ambulances in service, we will see a financial upgrade. We will see that. That is
When the ambulance shows up, Chief, do they just drivers or do they have an EMT? Because you're providing an EMT service.
So that's another scenario. So if it is available, they respond with a paramedic. If the call calls for a paramedic, they will respond with the paramedic. If they are short-staffed over there or they're on a different call, they send us a BLS unit. Our paramedic has to jump off the fire engine onto their ambulance and transport the patient. Again, we're not able to bill for that. So it's imperative that we have our own ambulance in the city. We saw here last week that we had a citizen with her bill, right? And she was asking, I mean, to me, it sounded like she was asking for some help. We, obviously, we're not a for-profit organization. We're able to bill what we use. So the bills that our citizens receive when they are used on our ambulance is much lower. And for that, I think it's important that we get on the ball with this ambulance stuff and that we give them that kind of service. That way they're not meeting these 400% increases on their ambulance.
That's just one part. The other part I'm thinking of is you're working overtime on your personnel, but it also creates a potential liability because you're overworking them, and then what happens, they call in sick or if something happens and there's a liability. I mean, if they're being overworked.
As far as the calling in sick part, I'm very proud to say my guys are not really calling sick. If you were to go back and look at our sick calls, they're not doing it. And the reason they're not doing it because they know if they call in sick, the other person's going to have to stay another day on top of the amount of days they've already been there. We've had personnel stay there for 7 days. Imagine you're checking in on Monday, say bye to the family on Monday, and you're back to the house till Sunday, Saturday.
Right. So use that overtime to invest on ambulances.
I know our overtime has always been an issue, and it's because of these lack of positions.
Right.
And I know it has been thrown around like we hired this, we heard this, we did hire new people. Yes, but those are filling other voids that we've already had. So if I were to leave, you're going to have to hire somebody else. You didn't earn a new position. You're just filling another position. And that's what seems like we're doing.
And that's just the ambulance. And then, according to your PowerPoint, you have all equipment, the trucks, the fire trucks.
Yeah.
You also have another liability there.
So, I mean, like I said, I apologize. I usually don't do these kind of presentations for the gloom, but the reality is the reality. It is what it is.
Right.
If I don't speak up, there's something that may not be fixed.
Well, not for me. It's not blaming. It's nobody's fault. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm saying it's just get forward, right? Fix it.
This is nobody's fault. This is just the reality of our business.
Any questions? No? You have any questions?
No, thank you, Chief. Thank you for the presentation.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, now we're talking about all the calls that you get. Now, the dispatchers or the ones that pick up, they're under the police department?
Yes.
Do they also pick up the 911 calls for the ambulance?
Yes, our dispatchers are super important. So by assisting the police department with their needs on the dispatcher, you're doing a credit to us as well. You're helping us out as well because they service both the fire and the police.
So how do we justify that then? If you have the dispatchers under the police budget versus
it's a shared expense.
The sheriff department for dispatching?
Yes.
Sure. But it's
So we're centralized.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So why do we have dispatchers?
But then who's picking up the tab? The sheriff department?
No.
The locally.
No, I think I'm saying shared as in like shared.
Oh, shared. Okay, sheriff.
Yes.
Okay, shared.
Yes.
Wow. Huh.
Keep coming up.
The dispatchers, they are allocated to the police department, but then every month we do an allocation to the fire department. So they're picking up for 2 dispatchers, and the rest of them are being charged to the police department.
Oh, okay.
That's
Thank
how
you.
it is.
Just want clarification on that. Okay. You said Mrs. Romo's on the line?
Yes, she had some questions for the chief of police and some for fire chief. So I'll start with the fire chief. A very high percentage of attention to people is in the international border. Mr. Favela, have you already considered entering into a contract with U.S. Department of Border Protection? You and I have already discussed this matter.
So let me understand the question. Is asking if we've had talks with the federal government about some kind of collaboration, right? We've had conversations with the Border Patrol, not so much the Border Patrol, the Port of Entry. And unfortunately at the time, there is nothing available for us. There's grants out there, and now I honestly want to say that this may be the first year that we're actually able to be awarded any of these grants. And I say that because of the great job that our finance department has done to get our CAFRs and all of our documents in order. The state's actually starting to see that we are being accountable, we're being respectful, we're being pertinent with all of our finances, because that's always been a downfall to us.
Right.
When you go for a grant, if
Right.
you can't show that you can provide the backup,
Right.
well then you're going to be denied. So because of that, because of their hard work, we're now going to be able to be, at least to compete with some of these grants. Granted, they won't fix everything, but they will help out.
She has another question. What percentage of the list of debtors for ambulance services is not charged, and why?
I'm not sure how that one.
I mean,
How would you understand that one? I'm sorry.
You can.
So
How can you tell?
the percentage of the people that owe the ambulance, how much is being collected, how much is not being collected, and the ones that's not being collected, what's typically the reason?
Okay, so I unfortunately I didn't bring the actual numbers for our collection rate. I'm not sure if you might have that, Carla, some of that information.
So as far as collections for our ambulance, we do get about anywhere between a 23 and a 27%. That's how much we collect. And this is mainly because of our medical and Medicare disproportionate share. We do bill about 88% to medical and Medicare, and they have a cap of how much money they will pay. So that's the main reason as to why we're not collecting all the money that we should. When it's a private insurance, we do have a higher chance of getting about an 80–90% of the collection. So that's where we're at right now. We average 24% monthly of our billing.
But we do have a lot of people that are uninsured and that are being.
That is correct. And
it's a lot of money
it is
that way.
And that
uninsured,
goes back
then
to the question by Mrs. Romo. Yes, that we do have a great deal, and this is something that I alluded to earlier in my presentation about the increase of calls at the border. It is what it is.
that is correct. And as you know, when we go in to provide a service, we are obligated to provide the service.
Right.
We can't say no to a person. We can't ask them for insurance and say, no, you
Right.
don't have insurance, we're not going to help you. We have to do it. And same goes for the hospital. The service needs to be provided if the service is needed.
And I know, I witnessed when, you have the ambulance from Mexicali bringing in a U.S. citizen and you pick them up in the border, you have to accept them whether they have insurance or not.
Right,
Bottom
that's
line.
true.
So,
That is correct.
and I don't know how in any way the border, the Port of Entry could intervene, because if they really can't, they have to let that citizen in.
Exactly, and I
It's
wouldn't,
kind
as
of-
like a business, I wouldn't see them trying to assume any of that responsibility, right?
So,
Okay.
I'm sorry, on that note, I mean, just before we get, so I know we're the town that is here, right? So we respond, to those emergency calls, right? But is there a way where, AMR provides services to other cities, contractor services, through contracted agreements, so that the, feds, can actually look into that? I mean, is there by law, of course, by law, we have to respond, right? But, where we can say, well, you know what, you need to go out and put out, an RFQ for services when those calls come in, or for someone to stage, AMR to stage for those calls, because those calls are actually quite frequent. So, I mean,
so I know with our previous administrations behind, right? And I'm talking about the government itself, the presidents and stuff. Up until January, we would receive not all the time, but we would receive some of the reimbursement from the government for those calls. If they were taken into custody, they would assume responsibility.
That's right.
They would fax us a bill, I guess a permission to bail form.
Okay.
Is what we would get. We would get that, we fill it out, send it to our billing agency, and they would pay that. It's something we haven't seen yet since January. We haven't seen one of those too, so that's more of a political question that maybe we can ask down the line.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Favela, training courses are very important for all employees. We must also find substitute personnel so that fire department personnel can take vacations. That is her comment from Councilmember Ro.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'm pretty sure our personnel will appreciate that too. And like I said, with COVID and with the ever-changing life itself, training is required. It is needed, and it's something, like I said, that our personnel shouldn't have to be doing out of their own pocket.
Okay, the following question is for the Chief of Police. Why the 3 police vacancies have not been hired? Which is the reason? She also asks when the police department is going to have investigators. Since when did the police department have no investigators?
Thank you, guys.
Okay, number one is why haven't we filled our vacancies? And I said earlier is we haven't found the right people to come in. A lot of people apply, but they don't pass some of the requirements, mainly the polygraph or the psych test or the background. So in order for you to be a police officer, you have to pass the polygraph. So they got to make sure you are not a liar. And even at that, some people slip through, but then they get weeded out during the background. And then if not, the psychological exam. So like I said it before, we go through a more strenuous background than a medical doctor does. And medical doctors perform these life-saving heart surgeries and everything like that. And I mean, they have to go to medical school and pass their boards, but that's it. Number 2 was investigators. So once patrol is my priority. Patrol is my priority. Patrol is what they need that. My officers can do follow-ups. They've done follow-ups all the time. They know how to write search warrants, and they all know how to do the job of a well-rounded police officer. Once I have enough people on board, like I said, is to put people in investigations. Next question.
Chief, along those lines, when you have a critical incident like a shooting, you do team up with the sheriff department.
So one of the things that we do have, and like I said, going back to the working relationships we have with other people, the sheriff's office has come out. As a matter of fact, we had a pretty good burglary at one of our downtown doctor's office this past weekend, and the sheriff's office came out with their crime scene investigation unit. And they actually were pretty happy to come on board because they were training one of their new CSI people. And they got to use almost 3/4 of the equipment they had there, from super gluing to using the vaping gluing to using all kinds of stuff, the DNA kit. So it works for both of us. We collect our evidence and they process the scene and get the experience that they need to do. One of the things with the CSI unit is the better you are, you get is by practicing more. So they like going out, and they don't only help me, but they help out the city of Imperial, they help out the Brawley PD, they've gone out to the Central PD. So the sheriff's office is our big brother, and they will always come up and help us. Anything else? Okay. Put on the oh. Put the Jeopardy theme song in the back. I was on every show. Oh, thank you, Mr. Roman.
Anything else? No. Well, I guess, we do have a meeting tomorrow, another 3 o'clock as well?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you all for your reports, and have a wonderful evening. This meeting is adjourned.